Chapter 2, The Evaluator, a scalpel pretending to be a mirror. This isn't healing. This is autopsy. This is what happens when you give your intellect a scalpel and call it salvation. I wake again. Same chair, same spotlight, same faint drip echoing in the distance, the sound of something left open too long. I blink. The room hasn't changed, but something has. I remember staying last time. I remember not running. I remember ego. That was chaos. This is worse. The silence is wrong. Too exact. The kind that only happens when something is waiting to be heard. Not peace. Preparation. Then, click, a second light, thin, cold, surgical. It slices across the room in a narrow beam, reveals a desk, a chair, someone already in it. Me, almost. Not flickering, not monstrous, still. Composed, unmoved, no rage, no panic, just posture. Clipboard balanced perfectly on one knee, grey shirt, no label, hair neat, face blank, eyes sharp. The Evaluator. It doesn't introduce itself. It doesn't need to. I know who this is, the one who turned trauma into thesis statements, who annotated my breakdowns like a dissertation draft, the one who sat quietly beside me during every panic attack and took notes. You've made progress, it says. Its voice doesn't cut. It scans, like it's reading me, looking for typos in my suffering. But let's examine why it took you so long. There it is, the ice in the gut, not fear, measurement, not rage, rubric. This isn't violence, this is grading, and it believes it's helping. The clipboard flips. November 17th, it begins. You said you'd never let someone treat you like that again. Page turn. December 1, you did. February called it growth. March called it regression. May called it love. It looks up. Which one was it? I don't answer. Exactly, it replies. Not smug, just certain. And that's worse. Every word feels like a review of a performance I didn't know I gave, and I can't object. Because they're my words, my justifications, my reframes, my failures, organized, numbered, underlined. The Evaluator doesn't accuse, it presents, and waits for me to convict myself. It gestures to a diagram I didn't know I drew. Your abandonment pattern, it says. Shock, fixation, guilt, rationalization, collapse, repeat. I clench my fists, it notes that too. It records. You articulate pain well, high functioning, insightful, strong grasp of attachment theory. Then it leans in slightly. If you really understood yourself, we wouldn't be here. Smile. But what if? We've covered that, it interrupts. Keep up. My skull tightens, literally. A migraine builds behind my eyes. If you had listened the first time, it says, we wouldn't be here again. And that's when I break. Not from anger, from recognition. Because I've said those exact words to myself before. I run, blind, headlong, into the dark. Because the Evaluator doesn't restrain me. It lets me flee. Knowing I'll come back because I want to be understood. And it has weaponized that need. Later, I wake again. Chair, light, drip. Evaluator still seated, pen midair, clipboard unshuffled. Back so soon. I try silence. It annotates the avoidance. I try anger. It names the defense mechanism. I try shame. It calls it awareness, praises it, pats me on the head with a label. I am handed worksheets, laminated, titled Distortions, Delusions, Attachment Styles, Fantasy Scripts, Role Repetition Loops. I fill them out, again and again. They change nothing. I get them right. Still, I'm told I should have gotten here faster. Eventually, I stop responding, not to rebel, to survive. Because I realize the Evaluator doesn't seek clarity. It hoards it. It doesn't want me whole. It wants me organized. It calls confusion a failure of discipline, sadness a waste of time, relapse a moral shortcoming, and healing a performance review. I sit, sometimes for hours, sometimes for imagined years. It fades, reappears. Sometimes it sounds like my father, sometimes my therapist, sometimes the friend who made me earn their approval. It never screams, it doesn't have to. It documents, and documentation wounds in ways fire never could. I begin to wonder if the Evaluator has always been there, in classrooms, in mirrors, in the pause before I speak. Maybe it used to be a teacher, a parent, a pastor. Maybe it wore their voice until mine learned to mimic the tone. Maybe the first time I made a mistake and felt the shame before anyone pointed it out, that was the moment it was born. Maybe it sharpened its pencil every time I said, I'm fine, and meant the opposite. Maybe it filled a drawer with red pens just for me. Then one day, somewhere between interrogation and resignation, I ask, what happens if I don't finish this one? And it pauses. That's new. No rebuttal, no citation, no clever dismissal, just stillness. And in that stillness I understand. It needs my participation. It cannot grade what I don't submit. So I slide the clipboard off my lap, flip it over, shut my mouth. Evaluator doesn't vanish, but it dims, flickers. It looks smaller, almost human. And in that breath of pause I hear footsteps, dozens, quick, tense, scattered, fleeing, anxiety, retreating to the corners, preparing. Then a thud, low. Not like them, different, something else. Then nothing. No echo, just the light, the chair, my body, my breath. I look up, ego is back, leaning in the shadows, grinning. Evaluator doesn't react. They've met too many times.